Penguin Random House Audio presents On Character, Choices That Define a Life. This is the author, General Stanley McChrystal. With admiration to all those who live a life of character, and with encouragement to all of us who fall short but continue to try. I think, therefore I am. René Descartes. Introduction. The last full measure. In the end, character is the only metric that matters. If I'm ultimately buried at Arlington National Cemetery, my grave, by regulation, and just like my father's, will be marked with a 13-inch by 42-inch by 4-inch white marble headstone, upon which a maximum of 11 lines of text will record my name, dates of birth and death, military service, final rank, and perhaps the wars in which I served. On the other side will be my wife's name and the dates of her life. Those lines are not much to record the essence of who we were, but they aren't intended to. That reality, more difficult to define, cannot be recorded in dates, accomplishments, or even perceived successes and failures. It is found in our character, the most accurate and last full measure of who we choose to be. Every other metric is superfluous. So this is a book about character, but one necessarily constructed of my convictions. Character, the appropriate destination of our life's journey, is not a trait inherited at birth or a gift from a learned mentor. It does not automatically come from education, position, or experience. Character, instead, is a choice. It is built upon the convictions or deeply held beliefs that we embrace and the discipline we muster to live up to them. Despite its deeply human nature, it is curiously mathematical. Character equals convictions times discipline. Meaning, if we lack either substantive convictions or discipline, the resulting product, our character, lacks all value. It is as simple and as thunderously consequential as that. This book is a late-in-the-game exploration of my personal search for character. Conducted over a lifetime, the process was less intentional than I wish it had been. But through a fascinating and sometimes tumultuous military career, and all of life before and after, I've reached a set of convictions that serve as the load-bearing pillars of who I am. And to the extent of my personal discipline to live up to them, they define my character. Candidly, neither my convictions nor my character are all that they could be, or even all that I wish they were, but they remain a work in progress that can still improve, and they benefit from my attention. When I remember to challenge my thoughts or actions against the standards of the character I aspire to, I'm better for it. Writing a book like this was an opportunity to consider, and often reconsider, my experiences, beliefs, and conclusions. I've used stories and reflections to identify and examine the character I seek, the convictions I've reached, and the discipline it takes to give those convictions substance. I encourage you, the listener, to do the same. I'll relate what I think about a wide range of subjects, some very personal and others quite public. I'll tell you frankly what I think about the issue at hand, and hopefully you'll understand how and why I reached the conclusion I did. But remember, these are my convictions, not yours. Think through them for yourself. Decide what you believe and why. If you feel strongly enough, advocate for your beliefs, and in extreme cases, fight and die for them. That's the point. This book is divided into 3 parts, each composed of reflections on various topics in life. Part 1, Conviction. What we believe and how we enforce those beliefs form the foundation of our character. Part 2, Discipline. Our ability to follow through on our stated beliefs provides the sinew to connect our convictions to the character they are meant to uphold. Part 3, Character. The essential structure of our lives is what we are willing to tolerate and what we are not. Each reflection is designed to be thought-provoking, but not prescriptive. It is unlikely that you and I will agree on every point. I hope we don't. But by hearing them, you'll see what I find important enough to think about, the convictions I've reached over a lifetime, and the implications they have had on my character and my life. My questions and conclusions are primarily meant for me, but if they help you decide what is worthy of deeper reflection in your own life and what values and ideas warrant conviction, I'll consider that a success. My only hope is that you find this of value. My only request is that you think about what you believe and who you decide to be. Part 1, Conviction. Convictions are the mainsprings of action, the driving powers of life. What a man lives are his convictions. Bishop Francis Kelly, former military chaplain. A time to contemplate. Reaching our convictions demands deep reflection. The general stood erect, his uniform covering his aging but lean frame. An all-night plane ride had left him drowsy, but commanding in combat for 6 of the previous 7 years had produced a deeper exhaustion, one that penetrated every organ and joint, pressing into the corners of the man's soul. He was waiting to meet the president, a few minutes in a room near the Oval Office to reflect on 55 years of life, the last 38 of which were spent in uniform. It was a difficult moment in a career and life that had known many others. By tradition, the general's accomplishments were reflected on his uniform. 4 stars on each shoulder, badges and ribbons, a stack of gold-colored bars on the sleeve recording wartime deployment. To some, the colorful resume might have summarized the soldier, but no rank, title, or uniform can do that. The soldier and the man are in the uniform, not pinned or sewn upon it. The general entered the White House's inner sanctum and in a brief professional conversation with the president, offered to resign. It was accepted, and a lifetime of military service ended in a moment. Outwardly, the man who left the White House that June morning was the same who had entered it less than an hour before, although his life would never be as it had been. Of course, I was the general in the room that day. My resignation, a result of a controversy fueled by an article in a magazine I'd rarely read, appeared to change everything. After almost 4 decades, I was no longer a commander, no longer a soldier, and, for the brief length of modern news cycles, was a publicly disgraced figure. It was an entirely unexpected inflection point in a life that had always recognized the potential of sudden death, but never of humiliating failure. I'd long believed that life, particularly a soldier's life, was supposed to include a moment, the moment, when talent, training, and experience are severely tested. If the result aligned with my hopes, I would emerge with my potential realized and a lifetime's effort would be proved well invested. Or I could go down in flames, satisfied that I had done my best, a hero's defeat. Up to that pivotal day in the White House, I'd seen movie versions of life's defining moment, but never experienced it myself. Despite a life of considerable drama,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?